Thank you so much for serving with us this weekend at Prestonwood Kids. We have some new things that we are trying out, so I want to show you how to register kids in properly, and I'm also going to show you some other things that you have in your classrooms. The first thing is you will have a roster with all your kids' names in there already. If you have a new kid, you can always sign them in at the bottom. Just make sure that they are in the correct classroom. If a child only comes to the 9 o'clock service, we want to put a check mark only under the 9 o'clock. If they leave after 9 o'clock, you sign them out after 9. The parent will write where they are during the 9 o'clock service at the end. So if they're going to worship, a W is enough. Another scenario is that a student comes for both services. So in that case, Tom Smith, you would check mark both services and you would only sign him out after the 11 o'clock service. So you would leave this one blank. His parents would write where they are going to be during both services. Now, the last scenario is if they only come for the 11 o'clock service. And in that case, you would leave these blank, sign him at 11, sign him in at 11 and out at 11, and their parents would write where they are at the 11 o'clock service. Now, how you can help us is we make sure we know how many kids are in the class at all times. So by around 9:40, you can go ahead and count how many kids are in your class. And at the bottom of the column where it says 9, you're going to write how many kids you had. Say you had 10 students in your class. That's very, very straightforward. And Mr. Lee will come by and ask you how many kids are there, and he will then write the numbers for us. Where it gets a little bit trickier is at 11. At 11, we want to know how many new kids came in that were not here for the 9 o'clock service. So say we had, in this example, we only had one new kid at 11. So you're going to go ahead and find out who did not come for the 11 o'clock and who did not come for the 9 o'clock and only was here for the 11 o'clock service. So you would write that number under new kids at 11. Say you have 3 kids at 11, 3 new kids, but your total amount of kids in the classroom is 8. So you're going to know 2 totals for 11. You're going to want to know how many new kids are there and how many kids have stayed for both services and your total number of kids. Okay? I will come by and get these numbers from you, and if you have any questions, I am here to help. I also wanted to let you know on some materials that you have in your classrooms available to you. We used to have a big arrival box, and now we're changing it to an expandable file folder. That's going to look something like this. It might be a different color, but this is how it's going to look. And what is in it is you have just extra stuff. You have like pins in there, Sharpies, potty training stickers, allergy stickers. You have backup check-in in case Fellowship 1 is down and you need to manually check kids in at the door. We also have incident reports for anything, any accident that may happen that's just bigger than a Band-Aid. We fill out an incident report. We also have extra sign-in sheets just in case an emergency happens and we don't have the roster that I was talking to you about earlier. You can use these. And then you will also find some of the cards for the books of the Bible for our Bible Walk section. You will find everything that I just said in the expandable file. Also in your classrooms are material boxes, and they're labeled like this. They're gray, and what's in it is just scissors, tape, and a stapler, glue, and a hole puncher, and all these kind of fun stuff. If you're running out of something, let me know and I can get more in your classroom. As we explore the Bible today, we're going to talk to our kids about how King Solomon had everything a person could want. He had riches, power, fame, wisdom, and he had God's honor and blessings. The nation of Israel prospered and it grew strong during these 40 years. But so in an attempt to make deals with other nations, Solomon had agreed to marry many different women from other nations. Now, this was forbidden by God's law. And the women from the other nations, they worshipped other gods. So Solomon started making temples for them, for their gods. And the people of God, even including Solomon himself, started worshiping these idols. Solomon had turned away from God, and as a result, God's people began to argue and fight among themselves. 10 of the original 12 tribes in the north separated themselves from the tribes of Benjamin and Judah in the south. These 10 north tribes, known as Israel, started worshiping other gods, and only the people in the south, known as Judah, continued to worship the one true God. It was a very sad time for God's people because they were divided and they were not kind to one another, and many of them did not love God anymore. Today's key word is choices, and we're going to talk to them about how God helps us make good choices. You can better prepare for the lesson by reading 1 Kings chapter 11 verses 9 through 13. For our Bible walk, we are learning the books of the Old Testament. A good goal for this Sunday would be that your kids learn at least the first 15 books of the Bible. For today's learning project, we're going to make a crown at 9 o'clock, talking about the kingdoms. And for 11, we're going to talk to their kids about how the kingdoms were divided. And we're going to have a drawing of Judah and Israel. They get to color that. Then they're going to have 2 crowns that will open and close up to show how the kingdoms were divided. Our memory verse for this month is, honor your mother and father as the Lord your God has commanded you. Deuteronomy 5:16. For our wrap up and goodbye, we have a theme called Are You Game? And if you see Creation Station, it's decorated as Candyland. And in our classrooms, we're going to be playing this game with our kids. It's a type of Candyland. You can ask them questions about the books of the Bible. You can ask them questions about the story that you just went over with them. If you can't think of any questions on your own, don't worry, because in your curriculum on your sheet at the very back where it says goodbye, it has some questions already there for you. So you will get 2 pieces of pawns for them. You can separate your classroom into 2 teams. It could be boys against girls or just split them in 2. And then you'll have dice there. As they roll them, they get to move the amount of spaces that the dice say. And in order to stay on that space, they need to answer the question correctly. Have fun with your kids, and thank you so much for serving with us this weekend.